let's go and take a look at the warm-up. Those of you that were not here last class, I have pulled up a couple of problems that are going over what we did last class. So pay attention to that so you can get a quick recap of what you missed. Also, if you struggled with your homework, make sure you pay attention and ask questions so that we can go over any issues you're still having. Our first problem, our first problem is the easiest one of them all. So we did that very first day. It says write the equation of a line with slope of -3 and y-intercept of -6. Remember, our equation that we use is y equals mx plus b. Which part of this equation represents my slope? And good. M is my slope, and thus b is my y-intercept. Alright, so for my equation here, they gave me my slope, they gave me my y-intercept, so all I have to do is put that in my equation. If y equals, instead of m, I know my m, -3, and then b, I have that, they gave that to me, it's -6. So my equation is simply y equals -3 minus 6, and that's it. They gave you your slope, they gave you your y-intercept, all you do is put it into your equation. Any questions on that? Raise your hand if you got that. Okay. Alright, so number 2, write the equation of a line with slope of 1/2 and passes through the point -4, 1. Now this requires a little bit of work because they gave us our slope, but we don't know our y-intercept. We knew this was my y-intercept because it has 0 for my x value. This is just a point -4, 1. We don't know what my y-intercept is, so I have to solve for that. So I can have y equals mx, but my slope is 1/2, so 1/2 x plus b. B is my y-intercept, I don't know b, so I have to solve for that. They gave me the point -4, 1. That's my x value, and that's my y value. So what am I going to do at that point? Yeah, just put those values in. Y is 1. So I put in 1 for y. X is -4, so I put in -4 for x, plus b. Then I solve for b. 1/2 times -4 is -2. So I get b is 3. I add 2 to both sides. So now I take that information and put it into my equation. Y equals mx. My slope is 1/2. And now I know my b value, 3. So this is my final expression. Again, same idea as before. I know my slope. I just have to take the other information to solve for my b value. Any questions on that? Raise your hand if you got that. Good. Alright, now number 3 and number 4 is what we did last class. It says write the equation of a line that is parallel to y equals -4x plus 6 and passes through the point 0, 8. If my equation, or if my line is parallel to this equation, what is the same between the two? Yes. The slope. So whenever it says that it is parallel, that means that my slope is the same. So I immediately know my slope is going to be -4. So y equals -4x. Now we still need our b value. Did they give us my b value? Oh, yeah. What is it? Yeah, 8. My y-intercept is when x is 0. So my y-intercept is 8. They actually went ahead and gave that to us. Plus 8. So that's my final answer there. Again, I'm done. They gave me my slope. They gave me my y-intercept. You just have to know that your slope, when it's parallel, is the exact same. Kevin and Jonathan, heads up. Alright, number 4. Again, same idea, but we have to do a little bit of work because we don't know that y-intercept. It says that it is parallel, so I use the same slope. So y is 1/3 x. And then I need to solve for my b value. I don't have b. They gave me just a plain old point, not a y-intercept. So again, this is my x value, this is my y value. I take those values and put them in. So y is 2, x is 6, And then I solve for b. F2 equals 2 plus b. And so when I subtract 2, I get 0 equals b. So my y-intercept actually ends up being 0. So then I have for my equation, y equals 1/3 x. You don't need to put the plus 0 on the end. That's the same thing as just saying 1/3 x. That's my final answer. Alright, questions on that? And that's all that we did last class, was simply writing the equation of a line given a point and a slope. And then also talked about parallel lines and what that means for us. Okay. Raise your hand if you got either 3 or 4. Either one right. Very good job. Alright, let's take a look at our homework. This shouldn't take long considering that most of you did not do it. If you did not do your homework, I highly recommend you get that done and show it to us next class so that you can get credit, but also so you can ask us questions on what you still don't understand. We do have a big quiz next class. We held off on the mini quizzes because we knew we'd have the day right before break and a day right after break, and we didn't want to give you a mini quiz right after break. So next class is a big quiz covering the first 3 topics. What I just did on the warm-up, that's what your quiz is essentially going to be, that and today's material. So if you know how to do the warm-up and you know how to do today's material, you're perfectly fine. But if you're still struggling, you need to make sure you come see us for help. You need to make sure that you're doing your homework and asking us for help, because we cannot hunt you down and follow you to your house to help you out. So come see us if you're still struggling. You don't want us to show up at your house.
And remember, if you want late credit, you have to show all of your work, separate to the paper or right on the back, all work shown. If you do not show work and just have letters circled and the answer written on the bottom, you are getting 0 points.
Alright, so here's the homework. I'll show you bits and pieces at a time since it's won't fit on the page. Alright, and then the answer to the riddle was just for the smell of it. And then here's the work, so you can compare your work for 1 through 6. Scrolling down some more. These ones require work as it is. Let me zoom in some. Alright, and then those last 2. Any questions on the homework? Again, they gave us the slope, and then they gave us a point. All you had to do was take your x and y value, put it into your equation, take your slope into your equation, solve for b. You'll notice that for this unit, it's a lot of repetition. We start up with y equals mx plus b, plug in what you have, solve for what's left. We do this for pretty much every single thing thus far. Okay, no questions? Okay. Go ahead and get out your foldable. That is going to be what we'll be using for today's notes. So get out this foldable guy. Alright, today we are working on the last 2 flaps of our foldable. So we've done slope-intercept form, given the slope and the y-intercept, given the graph. That was our first day. That was last Monday. Then on Wednesday before break, we had given the slope and a point, given a parallel line at a point. So we're now on the last 2 pages, the yellow and the green sheet. So today we're going to talk about how to write the equation given 2 points, and then given a perpendicular line and a point. So first up, the yellow sheet, given 2 points. Alright, again, we start off with y equals mx plus b. You should have this thing memorized by now. We've preached at you a million times. So for y equals mx plus b, you need the slope and the y-intercept to write an equation. Remember our equation for slope. Slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So when we have 2 points, that means we're going to have an x and y value and another x and y value. Our slope is simply subtracting my y's divided by subtracting my x's. Make sure you maintain that same order. I saw that on some of your guys' tests, you kept flip-flopping the order. Right, so after we find our slope, then we need to find the y-intercept. Remember, this is our b value. So plug in our x value, y value, and our slope into our equation. You will have just found your slope by using this equation here. So then you just pick one of your points and plug in the x value and the y value. Then we solve for b, our y-intercept. And just like before, we write our equation, putting in our slope and our y-intercept. So plug slope and y-intercept into the equation, leave y as y, and x as x. You'll notice it's pretty much the exact same instructions for every single flap in our paper. Find slope, find y-intercept, put it in. Find slope, find y-intercept, put it in. Find slope, find y-intercept, put it in. Alright, questions so far? Okay. So notice now they've given us 2 points. They did not give us the slope, and they did not give us the y-intercept, so we have to find each of these. My slope is subtracting your y's and subtracting your x's and dividing the two. So in my equation here, I'm going to subtract my y's, so negative 4 minus 6 divided by, and maintain that same order, 3 minus 1. It does not matter which point you start with, as long as you go in the same order. So negative 4 minus 6, 3 minus 1, or you could have gone the other direction and then 6 minus the negative 4, 1 minus the 3, as long as you go in the same direction. Alright, let's simplify this. Negative 4 minus 6, negative 10. 3 minus 1 is 2. And Jason Conato, what's negative 10 divided by 2? Good, negative 5. So my slope is negative 5. Again, they did not give us the slope. We had to solve and find it. Something we learned last year. Are we done? No, it says write the equation. We only found the slope. Alright, so I have, again, y equals mx plus b. I just found my slope. I now need to find my b value. So let's put this into my equation. Y equals m is negative 5, x plus b. Alright, again, we need to solve for b. So we're going to just choose one of my points and take the x and y value and put it into my equation. I'm going to just use my first point. So 1 goes in for x, and 6 goes in for y. Alright, so 6 is my y value, x is 1. So again, I have my slope. Now all I'm doing is just picking one of my points and substituting in those values. Alright, so we have 6 equals negative 5 plus b. And Steve, what am I going to do to solve for b?
Add 5.
Good. Add 5 to both sides, so we get 11 equals b. Are we done now? No, not yet. We're almost done. Elroy, I found my slope and I found my y-intercept, but we're supposed to write the equation. So now we just pull this together to write my equation. Y equals negative 5x plus 11. Found my slope, found my y-intercept, now I just have to put it into the equation. Alright, questions on that first example? Okay, same idea with our second one. We have f of 3 equals 2, and f of 6 equals 4. So again, let's do our slope. Y minus y, so 2 minus 4. And then it's in the same direction, 3 minus 6. Again, you could have gone the other way. Does not matter. Yeah, you keep writing it down. I'm subtracting my y's, and then subtracting my x's and dividing the two. Alright, let's simplify this. 2 minus 4, negative 2. 3 minus 6, negative 3. And Elroy, what does a negative divided by a negative give me? Positive. Good. So my slope is 2/3. You with us, Rachel? Alright, I have half my information. I still need to find what, Jason Velasco? What do I still need to find? Alright, so Jason, if I have my slope, what else for my equation do I need? Help me out, Gabby. We need B to write our equation. Good, so we still need our y-intercept so we can write our equation. Good. So let's find our y-intercept. Alright, so again, let's pick one of my points. Freddie, which point would you like to use? 3, 2, or 6, 4?
6, 4.
Alright, 6, 4. So this is my x value, this is my y value. So I'm taking that and putting it into my equation. We have y equals mx plus b. So y is 4, m is 2/3. M is 2/3. X is 6. And we don't know B. It was a negative divided by negative, which gave us a positive, since they're both negative. Good question. Alright, and let's solve for B. Anybody know what 2/3 times 6 is?
4.
Very good, 4. Because 2 times 6 is 12, divided by 3 is 4. Alright, then we subtract 4 from both sides, and what do we end up getting for our B value? 0. 4 minus 4 is 0. Right? 4 minus 4? Alright, so now we have our slope, we have our y-intercept. Let's put it together in our equation. Y equals mx, 2/3 x, plus b, but b is 0, so this is our final answer here. 2/3 x. Alright, again, we take our points, use those values to find our slope, then take one of our points with the slope to find our b value, and put it all together in one nice equation. Questions on this so far? Alright, so let's take a look at our second plot. The next one says, given a perpendicular line and a point. So this is close to what we had before, where we had a parallel line and a point. But now our line is perpendicular, so we're on the last flap, our green flap. Alright, so again, we have the equation y equals mx plus b. We're trying to write our equation in this form. We need to have our slope, and we need to have our y-intercept. Well, for a perpendicular line, the slope is actually based upon the slope that's already given to us. So we use the perpendicular line to find the slope. Perpendicular lines, anybody know what the slopes are for perpendicular lines? Opposite and reciprocal. So perpendicular lines have opposite, reciprocal slopes.
So they have flip and flip.
So perpendicular lines have opposite, reciprocal slopes. Opposite just means you switch the sign. If it's positive, it becomes negative. If it's negative, it becomes positive. Reciprocal means we just flip the fraction. You might want to write that underneath reciprocal. We flip the fraction. Right? So for example, 1/3, opposite of that is going to be a negative fraction, because it's currently positive. And the reciprocal means we flip the fraction. So it's 3/1, which is just -3. Alright? So then, for my next one, Gabby, what's my slope going to be? Well, what's the opposite? Is it currently positive or negative? It's currently negative, so it needs to be positive. And then what's the reciprocal? Okay, 5/4. So my perpendicular slope would be 5/4. We should all be writing this down. Alright, then our last one, -2. Remember, a whole number is the same thing as -2/1. Anybody want to volunteer what this last one's going to be? Good, 1/2. Very good, Drew. So again, we flip it and it becomes positive.
Use the number to make it into a fraction so you can flip it. Is that what number is it?
Alright, so that means that from our equation, we can immediately know our slope. So we have our slope. What's the next thing we have to find, Jason Velasco? Good! Our V, our y-intercept. That's our V value. Alright, and the exact same instructions as earlier, the same instructions as Wednesday, the same instructions as Monday. Take your x and y values and substitute those in. Take your slope and substitute that in, and solve for B. So then we have our slope, we have our y-intercept, then we can finally write our equation. The y is y, and x is x. So same thing as before. Find your slope, find your y-intercept, put it together. Alright, let's take a look at our first example here. It says a line perpendicular. This notation here means perpendicular. Remember from last class, this notation means parallel. This notation means perpendicular. So when we see that, we know that we're going to do the opposite reciprocal with our slope. So Jonathan, for example 1, it says the line is perpendicular to y equals -4x plus 6. What would my opposite reciprocal slope be? Very good, very good. A 1/4, and notice it's positive, like he said. Alright, so again, we immediately know our slope. We take the slope that's given to us and do the opposite reciprocal. Alright, and then they tell us that it goes through the point 0, 2. What do we notice about this point? What kind of a point is that? The point 0, 2. What is that? What? I didn't hear what you said. Well, if I plot this, where is it going to be on my graph? How much do I go left or right? 0. How much do I go up or down? I go up 2. What is that? It is positive. What's that called?
Y-intercept.
The y-intercept. Yes, my y-intercept is when x is 0. So this right here is my y-intercept. They already gave me b. I don't even have to do any work. My x value is 0, which means that's my y-intercept. I have my b value. So all I have to do is put this into my equation. Slope is 1/4. And my b value is 2. So if you can recognize that's your y-intercept, you save yourself some work. If you would have taken this and put it into your equation, you would have gotten the same result for b. You just would have done more work for that. Alright, example 2. Again, it says the line is perpendicular to y equals 1/2 x plus 3. Alright, so if it's perpendicular to this, what is my slope going to be? Anybody have an idea what my slope is going to be? Very good, -2/1, which is just -2. Alright, now do they give me my y-intercept this time? No, so we have to find it. So here's my x value, here's my y value. Again, we start off with y equals mx plus b. Y is 5. My slope is -2. My x value is 4. And I don't have b. Alright, so let's solve for b. -2 times 4 is -8. Add 8 to both sides, so we get 13 is my b value. So now I have my slope, I have my b value, my y-intercept, so all I need to do is put into my equation. -2x plus 13. Again, exact same thing for every single type of problem we've been doing for these first 3 days of our unit. Take your information to find your slope, take your information to find your b value, and then put those into your equation. Alright, questions on our notes today? Alright, let me pass out your classwork to you. Alright, so let's take a look at the first 6 problems. It says, write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line shown in the graph. Now for number 1, they give us 2 specific points. So we could use those 2 points, solve for our slope, solve for our y-intercept. But what could we do instead to make it easier on ourselves? I need my slope. Instead of solving for slope, what can I do? How else can I find my slope? We could use our equation, but what else could I do, Aubrey? Yeah, just rise over run. Count my slope here. Here's a dot that's perfectly on the line. I need to stress you guys that when you're choosing dots to find your slope, they need to be perfectly at an intersection. Perfectly on it. Your line has to be perfectly through there. If your line goes close to it but not on it, you cannot use that. It needs to be perfectly on the intersection. Alright, so let's just do rise over run. Here are 2 points that are perfectly on the intersection. So it's up 1, over 1. My slope is 1 over 1, which is just 1. So I know my slope value, 1x, or just x.
If you aren't positive where suppose, choose the 2 points that are already plotted.
Yeah.
Those two simplify.
You could have used this point and that point, which would have been up 1, 2, 3 over 1, 2, 3, which reduces down to 1, and we see it's a positive slope, so it's 1. Could have done it that way as well. And again, we could have used one of these points and solved for our b value, or instead, how else can I find my b value? What does my b value stand for? The y-intercept. How else can I find my y-intercept? It's just on the y-axis. They gave me my y-intercept right there. They said my y-intercept is 0, 3, so my b value is 3. So immediately I have my answer without having to do any mathematical work for it. Alright, let's take a look at one though where it doesn't give us a nice y-intercept. How about number 6 here? See, it crosses right there. I don't know exactly how much that is. It might be negative 2.5. It might be negative 2.7. It might be negative 2.78673. We don't know exactly what it is, so we cannot guess at our y-intercept here. So for number 6, you would have to use these 2 points and find your slope and your y-intercept. Right? So we have the point 1, 1 and the point negative 1, negative 7. So slope is my y's subtracted, so 1 minus 7. 1 minus a negative 7. Divided by my x's subtracted. 1 minus the negative 1. Plus a positive turns into 8. Plus a positive turns into 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So I have my slope is 4. I'm going to write this up here off to the side. Alright, and then I use this information to find my y-intercept. Again, I have y equals mx plus b. My m value is 4. My x value, just pick one of your points. I'm going to use the point 1, 1. Smaller numbers, easier to work with. So y is 1, x is 1. So we solve for b. Get 1 equals 4 plus b. So I get negative 3 is my b value. If we look on your graph, we see that my scale is actually, each line goes by 2. So instead of this being negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, we see it goes by 2s. Negative 2, negative 4, negative 6. 2, 4, 6. Negative 2, negative 4, negative 6. 2, 4, 6. Which is why these dots are in the middle, because negative 1, negative 7 ends up being in the middle of the grid, since the scale goes by 2s. So this allows us to know my exact b value, my exact m value, so we just write out our equation. Y equals mx plus b, 4x minus 3. That's me. So if they do not give you your y-intercept, you have to solve for it. So some of these, they gave it to you. Other ones you have to solve for. Alright, go ahead and take the next 10-15 minutes to start working on this. I want you to first do the odds and then go back and do the evens. So that way you get some of each kind. In case you don't finish it all in class, then you have the chance to try each type of problem and ask us questions if you don't understand. So start off with the odds, like 3, 5, 7, 9, so on and so forth. And then go back and do the evens. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, so on and so forth. Ms. Charlotte and I are available to answer questions. I'll be coming around and helping you out as you need it. Also, we have papers to pass back to you today and progress reports. We have your tests to give back to you, as well as some old quizzes and stuff that we need to get back to you. So while you're working on that, we'll pass those out as well. Alright, let's take a look at some of the questions you have so far.
Yeah. That sounds like it works.
Alright, any questions on 1 through, or, sorry, just odds. 1 through 5?
I'm sorry. I got so confused.
So, which questions do we have then?
A lot.
You gotta pick one to start with, though. I kind of taught it, so I need to know which specific one to show. 3? Alright, so 3, we need to find our slope. Maybe I should increase this. Try again. So we need to find our slope and our y-intercept. Slope is rise over run. How much do we rise? To get from this point to this point. 2. We go up 1, 2. And how much do we run? 1. Is this a positive or negative slope? Negative, because it's going down as we go to the right. So my slope is negative 2 over 1, which is just negative 2. What is my y-intercept? 1. It crosses your y-axis at 1. So my y-intercept is 1. That's all we need for my equation. So I can write out my equation. Y equals mx, negative 2x, plus b, plus 1. That's it. What'd you say?
You did, so that almost got there.
Okay. Alright, other questions on 1 or 5? Okay. Questions on maybe. No, it's just frozen. Okay. Questions on the bottom side of the front. There we go. Questions on 5, 7, 9, or 11? So we're all understanding it perfectly. 5. Thank you, Natalie. Alright, they gave us 2 points. Says write an equation in slope-intercept form. Again, y equals mx plus b. This is your starting point for every single thing we've done thus far. Alright, Drew, I'm going to call on you for the y-intercept here in a second. So we have to find our slope. Jonathan, how do I find my slope?
Five.
How do I find my slope?
You got y2 and y1.
Good.
Minus.
Very good. So y2 minus y1. So 3 minus 4 divided by x2 minus x1. Negative 1 minus 0. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. Negative 1 minus 0 is negative 1. So my slope is just 1. Alright, Drew, do you know what my y-intercept is? You say no? Let me give you a hint. For my y-intercept, we have 0 for my x value. So taking a look at the points that they gave me, what do you think the y-intercept is? Close, close, close. Let me erase what I've written so far. We want where my x value is 0. Which one of these has that? So here my x value is negative 1. Over here my x value is 0. So my y-intercept is going to be 4. Yeah. So again, look for where your x value is 0. And that's going to be your y-intercept. So this is my y-intercept. So I immediately know that my y-intercept is 4. And Jason? Don't worry, you can answer this question. Which letter represents my y-intercept? Very good. Alright, so then I have that b is 4. So I write my equation. Y equals my slope, which is 1, x plus b, which is 4. And 1x is the same thing as just x. So y equals x plus 1. Alright, other questions on the front side? 7, 9, or 11? Nope, we're perfectly good. We're all going to get 100% on our next quiz.
No problem.
11! Alright, so we have the point 2, 3. and the point 611. So we need to find our slope. Subtract our y values for my slope. 11 minus 3, 6 minus 2. 11 minus 3 is 8, 6 minus 2 is 4, 8 divided by 4 is 2. So my slope is 2. Now I have to do a little bit of work to find my b value. Again, we have y equals mx plus b. Oh, Rory, what do I already have? What value did I just find? Yeah, m. So m is 2. And then I just pick one of my points for my x and y value. I'm going to use this since they're smaller numbers. X is 2. My y value is 3. I should have done mx plus b. We don't know our b value. My apologies there. 2 was our m value. Alright, so y equals mx plus b. I don't know my b value, so I'm solving for it now. Subtract 4 over, I get negative 1 is my b value. I have b, I have m, we put it into our equation. Y equals 2x minus 1. That's my 2. Alright, other questions on the front side? Okay, back side. It's more of the same problems. Any questions on 13, 15, or 17? What's that, 18? Okay. Ooh, 18 we have fractions. Even better. So 18, again, the same thing. We need to find our slope. I'm going to use the space up here. So y2 minus y1, 3 halves minus the negative 1 over x2 minus x1. So 3 minus 1 half. Okay, you can use your calculator to help you out with this. 3 halves minus negative is plus, positive. 1 is the same thing as 2 over 2. You have to get that common denominator. So we end up getting 5 halves on top. 3 minus 1 half. Again, we need to get a common denominator. So 3 is the same thing as 6 halves. So 6 halves minus 1 half is 5 halves. Oh. Any number divided by itself is just 1. Again, you can use your calculator to help you out with that. So then I have slope is just 1. Now I use my equation, y equals mx plus b. Slope is 1. And let's use this point here. Alright, my x value is 1 half. So 1 times 1 half. My y value is negative 1. 1 times 1 half is just 1 half. So I subtract 1 half from both sides. Negative 1 minus 1 half would be negative 1 1/2. Or if you use your calculator, get this into a fraction, we would have negative 3 halves. This is my b value. So I have then b is negative 3 halves. So my equation is y equals 1x minus 3 halves. Alright, I'm going to go and pass out your homework to you. You need to have at least the odds completed on your classwork. If you did not get the odds done, that is also part of your homework. Your homework is finishing the odds on the classwork as well as this worksheet here. Worksheet 7.